those scripts you can use. Naresh, I'll be going to forward it to you. And for Srinivas, I think I already sent you, and everything is ready on your machine so that you can directly use it. Naresh, maybe you can just ping your email address, and then from now on, I'll just communicate with you directly with any materials and all those things which I'm going to provide to you for hands-on and everything. And have you?
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Where should I ping you?
Yeah.
I mean, where should I ping you, in the chat or somewhere else?
Yeah, you can just send it in the chat. I'll take it from there. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Okay. And one more thing. Yeah. So now there are a few. Yeah, Brian, I think I'm actually copying you every time, but yeah, I did tell you that you can probably check spam, or whether it is getting added to spam or something. And if it is going into the spam, so please add my account to your address book so that it will be there. Okay. And
no, I just checked it. It's not going to my spam. I checked my spam. It's not going there.
yeah, your email address is bilabi@yahoo.com, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the same thing. I did even just before some time also. I did send you the email. I think Sohail, everyone has received, but except you. Yours is an Yahoo account. I'm not sure whether it is blocking something. I'm actually sending from Gmail account, and yeah, Syed, I think you guys have received, right? Just before some time I sent one mail and I copied everyone on that. And even Asif, I copied it. Okay, I mean, I'll try and send it to you again and check. Yes, receive the scripts. Yeah, I sent.
I'll give you my Gmail account.
Yeah, sure. You just give me your Gmail. Probably I'll copy on that. Okay, thank you. So there are some confusions with the people, like when we have actually gone through the last class, and there are some confusions to go with. So what we do, I'll set up everything on this remote box. Now I'm currently on the remote box, and I'll set up the accounts for everyone, and based on that, you guys can start working on it. I'm not sure they already provided the user accounts to every one of you. I think user 1, user 2, user 3, 4, and 5, something like that. So I'm not sure who is a user 1, but anyway, whatever the account that is being provided to you, you can download the script what I just sent you. You can download the script what I just sent you, and based on that you can download whatever is there from the Gmail account. So in order to copy the files into this remote box, so this remote box is enabled. I mean, you have internet access here. So what I'm doing now, whatever the scripts that I have sent you, I'm just logging in and then copying all those scripts. So this activity, why we are doing is just to clear whatever the questions that you have regarding the hands-on. And this is not something that which we are going at it. Okay. So now, and these are all the database scripts that we have, and I'm downloading this. So similarly, you can also download these things to your whatever the remote box that is being provided to you, and from there you can start working on it. So I'm just opening the folder now, and so these things I'm going to probably copy that into some folder in the D drive. Maybe, I don't know whether you have access to C drive and all those things, so probably you can use E drive or C drive or whatever. Oops, here also you don't have permission. Okay, I'll just let the people know about it, and I don't know, this will accept it. Okay, we'll just check my download. At least here it will. Okay, these are the database scripts that we have, and if you see, there are a lot of database scripts, out of which you have to run and all those things. Okay, so now you have This is to create the source table scripts. You need not to run this. You need to run only these two scripts, that is your tdbu.sql and scd_ddl.sql. So in order to run, in order to create the source scripts, what I'm doing now, I'm just coming out of this and I'm running the TDBU scripts, SDBU scripts for you. So I'm creating a new user account, and so do remember, like, do not get confused again. So you need not to run this. You need not to run whatever I am doing that for a SDBU thing, because this is already being, I'm going to create it, and you need not to create it once again. So I'm actually logging in as a DBA and I'm creating the user called as an SDBU. I'm creating a user called as an SDBU and I'm running the scripts. I'm running the SDBU script. So now the user is created. So I'm just granting a DBA privilege to SDBU. So please make sure that you do not touch this. If something goes wrong again, we had to reconfigure entire thing, and that would be a work for the team here. So please make sure that you use the things what is being provided to you, Okay. So yeah. So in order to run this SDBU scripts now, I'll just run all these scripts and we will go from there. Okay. So now to run the SDBU scripts, so whatever I'm saying now, you need not to run this script. This script is not required when we are doing it. So you're required to run it. Yeah, somebody has a question here. So you're required to run only the TDBU scripts. What is as per the as I have mentioned in the mail, you just run only that script. Don't run these scripts as again to do this, because so now the staging table, source tables have been created. So I have populated the data also onto the source tables. Now if you see in the SDBU schema, you have already the tables, what you have, customer, department, and all those things. And all these tables we are going to use it. So please use SDBU schema as your source whenever you are importing something from the database or this. And similarly, the user account is already provided to you, and the people who doesn't have the user account, I'll just give you the user account details now, like Prashant and Naresh, and I'm going to give you the user accounts what you have to access it. So I'm going to use the TDBU schema, or let's say the user file. I have to run the scripts in the user file. So in order to run the scripts, so in the target schema, in your target schema, so whatever the activity that I have done before, that is not required for you. You just leave it and you just connect to your account, whatever is being provided to you in the email address, that you log in with that account and then do that. So let's say I'm logging in with user file and then my database name is ORCL. So just type in there. So it'll allow you to connect to the ORCL schema. Here you run that tdbu.sql and the scd_ddl.sql to create all the target tables. We are going to create. So likewise, user one, they might have provided you the user account as user one, user two, user three, like that. So log in as your account. Don't just use user 5 and then try to run it, because user 5 I'm already creating it. So it won't be possible for you to log in again and then do it. Okay, now I have to run, you need to run these two scripts. So you can make a note of this. I also mentioned in the email. So you have to run tdbu.sql and scd_ddl.sql to create all the target tables. And remaining all the other scripts, we are going to use it in the future. For time being, don't run anything. Just leave it as is. And when the time comes and when the hands-on lab comes, that time you can run all those scripts as per the instructions. So now I have to run to create all the target tables. So now I've connected to user 5. User 5, let's say user 5 is my target schema. There I have to run all the target, all the target scripts. So when you go and run here, so just copy the entire path, wherever you have downloaded, maybe based upon your num. So now you need to run the tdbu.sql. So do remember this tdbu.sql. When you run it, it will create only the target tables. It doesn't create any of, it doesn't populate the data into this. So now it has created the tables. So if you see a lot of tables are being created, go and check how many tables are there in the user 5 now. So if you check it, there are, oh my god. Okay, I think they have used this user 5 is also as the repository schema. That's why you have a lot of these tables. Okay, for your account, when you actually do it, you'll find only the 32 or some other tables. Okay, that's fine. So in order to do it again, so in order to run one more script, so run the one more script, that is std_ddl.sql for std_ddl.sql. So that will create some more tables. So it will create all the required tables for your hands-on the target database schema. It will create all the required hands-on for a target database schema. Now, if you see, your source database is ready and your target database is also ready. Suppose, let's say, when I'm running it, right? When I'm running the things, so ms. So to give a heads up and to avoid the confusion, so now I have source database called as a SDBU, and I'm going to, okay, what is text? So this is my source database. So where I have all these things. Okay, I'll drive it from my machine. Okay. So yeah, so you have this thing. So this is a source SDBU, and you have a user 5. Let's say user 5 account is provided to you. User 5 account is provided to you. So you have the tables here like ODS_employee, and you have ODS_time, so on, so on. So you'll have some more tables like dim time, dim rep, and all those tables will be available. And you have the SDBU schema, which will be the source system will be common for everyone, as I told you in the previous classes. So source system will be common to everyone. From here, using Informatica process, you're going to define the ETL programs and then migrate this and then load the data into using ETL process, that is your Informatica programs. You're going to migrate the data from SDBU schema to this. So you're not going to change any data on the SDBU. SDBU has the data already, and it has the lot of other tables like employee and whatever is required. So all the tables are available, and then so these tables are available, and you're going to use these tables and then populate the data from here. So this is the user 5 account which I'm using it. So I'm loading the data here. Okay. So if it is a user 1 account, so you create all the tables and then start loading the data. So how it is going to differ and how it is going to differ. Okay. So now this is what the environment preparation is done. So for everyone, whatever the emails that I have forwarded, so this is the environment. This is your source system. So whenever you want to access the source tables, you're going to use the SDBU as a username and SDBU as a password. And whenever you're going to access the target schema, you're going to use whatever the ID that provided. Let's say user 5 is my account, and I'm going to use user 5 Oracle account to log in and then use it. So that is what is going to work out. So now let's implement a simple example, and we have seen in the last class how to extract the data from employee table to the ODS_employee table by using the expression transformation. And we have different transformations, and we are going to see that. So to work on the Informatica, so when you log into repository, somebody tried to configure the repository by using the name as domain underscore whatever, like already the repository is being configured, and this is your repository where you have to work. So when you are logging in, just log in with your user account, whatever is the user account that you have, user 5 and user 5. So let's say this is your user account, which Informatica account, which I have to log in. So you can log into this, and what I think there is no. Okay. So I'm logging in with the administrator to demonstrate you what is there. And I think you have already received the Informatica account, user accounts. Okay, 1 second. So it's logging in, and whatever is a folder that is being assigned to you, you can start working on all those folders. Suppose let's say user 1 is for Brian, so Brian has to create all the programs required for our hands-on. You are going to create it in the user 1, and user 2, user 3, like that you are going to create it. So when I drive the hands-on labs, I'm going to use the repository folder, and I'm going to create all the related programs, whatever is there, I'm going to create it here. So whenever you are doing it, so you can start creating user 2, whoever is the one, so they can create their accounts and then start accessing all those things. Okay, whatever you have, you can start using it. So whatever the dedicated folder that is being assigned to you, only use that account when you are logging. Use that account and use that folder only what is being assigned to you. So you have a lot of folders here, whatever the user that you log in, and based on that only you use it. So about the configuration of, you tried to configure the host. So somebody tried to configure the Informatica, and they got the error, and then they mailed me about this. So okay, so how to configure the repository? So whenever you walk into the project, and your administrator or someone from the place, they'll provide it to you, what is the username, what is the domain name, and at the same time what is the host name, what is the repository name, and all those things will be provided to you. So and the host and then the port, everything will be added. So you can't just try and use the domain what is being there in the recorded lab. Okay, so you need to go here, configure domains. So if you want to add a new domain, enter the domain name, host, and then the port. So once you add it, it will give you the list of repositories what you have here. And you want to log into the host repository, just go here, and from here you have to log in. So since the repository is already configured here, you need not to again configure one more time to practice the hands-on lab. You can straight away start using the designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor from here, because the folders are also created. So sometimes in the real time, so when you go here, these are all the things which will be done by your administrator itself. Creation of folders and then assigning the permission to the folders, everything will be done by the administrator. You can just start using the designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor, and all those things that you can start using it. Okay, you can start using it. Now, whatever the hands-on lab that we have done in the last class, I'll just try and recall, we'll just redo that lab within a short time, and we are going to do that hands-on lab once again to complete it. So what was the hands-on lab that we have done? We have extracted the data from employee table and then loaded the data into ODS underscore employee by using expression transformation. So to log into this, so I'm going to create all my mappings whenever I'm driving the session. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to drive this using the administrator account. So whatever the account that is being provided to you, that you have to use it. So it's a little slow here. So I'm going to create all the things here. So we have seen already the client introduction about the mapping designer and all those details. Okay. So I'm going to import the employee table from the source and the ODS underscore employee from the target, and I'm going to create the mapping and then proceed with the steps. So what are all the steps that we have to follow? So whenever you are doing a hands-on lab, we did discuss that we have to follow the 8 or 9 steps whenever you are doing it. So I'm actually reiterating all the steps what we have discussed in the last class to do that. So the first step that you are going to do is that you are going to create or import the source by using the create or import the source by using the source analyzer. And the second one is that create or import the target by using a target designer. So this is a target designer, and the next one is to do the third one is to create a mapping with a mapping designer with a set of transformations. So in this first hands-on lab, we are going to talk about the expression transformation which is used to concatenate the first name and last name. All these 3 steps, you are going to perform that from the Power Center Designer. Power Center Designer, that is which is I open now. This is a Power Center Designer, right? So I'm going to quickly redo all these steps and then we'll proceed from the 4th step. These 3 steps we have already completed. I'm redoing it again because to avoid the confusions on the remote box and to create the DSN again, to import the target table again and all those things. There are a lot of confusion, so I'm going to redo it all these 3 steps and then we'll quickly proceed from the 4th step. So what is the 4th step? And 4th step is to create the session using the task developer in the workflow manager. So that is by using the task developer tab, so that you're going to use it. So 5th one, you're going to provide the connections. You're going to provide the connections to connection for a integration service in the mapping tab. And the 6th one is to create the workflow. Create the workflow using workflow designer. 7th is to run the workflow. And 8th step is to verify the results using the workflow monitor. Verify the results. So these are all the 8 steps for every hands-on we are going to follow. Verify the results. So 4, 5, 6, 7 steps will be done by using another client tool called as a workflow designer. And the last step will be done by using another client tool called as a workflow monitor. Another is called as a workflow monitor. So we'll quickly redo the things. So how we are going to import the source, how we are going to import the target, and how we are going to import the expression. So this hands-on lab is a first hands-on lab to do that. So to import the sources, import from database. So my source is available in the source schema. So how to import it? I'm going to import that from by adding my own DSN, which is there. So that I'm going to add it by using a data direct 6.10 protocol. So this will be the SDBU, and the description you can call it as, so data source name I'm calling it as a OLTP. So you need a DSN to interact with the database. So that's why I'm entering it as a OLTP. So the host name, I think probably the host name is different here on the remote box. So let's check it. So how to identify the host name? You can go to the TNS entry, whatever is being there. And from the TNS entry, you can find out what is a host name for this computer or the server host name that you have. So network, and then go to admin. So you can open the tnsnames.aura file. Inside the tnsnames.aura file, you'll come to know what is where is Oracle is sitting. I mean, where the Oracle is running and which host it is running. So this is the host name is info and the port name is 1521 and the database name is ORCL. So those details you have to enter it over here. So here the info is the host name and the port number is 1521 and the SID what you're going to use is a ORCL. Test the connectivity with the SDBU schema. So SDBU, click on OK. Now, yes, connection is established, that has been working fine. So now you can use this DSN to communicate with the source database. So likewise, you can also create one to communicate with the OLTP. And whatever I have created in the account user 5, I have logged in as a user 5, and this might not be visible to you. When you log into the remote box, this might not be visible. So you have to use your own account to create it. Now I'm going to use this DSN ODBC data source to communicate with it. So the username is SDBU. So enter the SDBU as the username and the SDBU and the tables. You have a lot of tables here. So out of which you're going to use is a employee table as a source. So quickly import it. So you're just importing the employee definition, not the data, right? So now you have imported the employee table. And similarly, import the target table also. So the target table, so to import the target table, again, I need a DSN to connect to the target database, which I don't have. I'm creating a new DSN to communicate with the target database. So I'm trying and adding one more this thing. So data direct 6.1 Oracle wire protocol. So this is, let's say you call it as a OLAP. So I've logged in as user 5. So I'm just giving it as a OLAP underscore user 5. And then here the host name is same because both the schemas are sitting on the same database. So enter 1521 and here the ORCL. So but when you are connecting it, you need to provide your username and password. Do remember here. So whatever that I'm providing the user file and whatever the password that is being provided to you. Okay. Now I am using the user 5 as my database account. My database account, so I've created OLAP. So I'm going to use a OLAP to come in, import my target tables. Okay, so OLAP user 5. So now I have the user 5 is my target database account, and I'm entering the user 5 here. User 5. So just connect. It will give me a lot of tables because this is the Informatica repository schema also. So now out of which I need only the ODS underscore employee. So just go to ODS underscore employee, select it and click on OK. Now you have the source table is ready and the target table is ready. So the next thing is to create the mapping. So we'll quickly create a mapping. So whenever you're creating a mapping, come to the mapping designer. So go here, click on create. That is a new thing. So M underscore ODS underscore employee. Always the mapping name will be M underscore ODS underscore employee. So click on OK. Click on sorry about that. I think somebody has actually taken the control, I guess. Maybe let me try and log in again. So okay. So I'm going to create the user. I'm going to create a mapping. So my source table is employee table. So I'm dragging and dropping that into workspace. So employee table, and now I'm going to use the expression transformation to concatenate both the first name and last name. So I'm creating a new transformation. These are all the things that we have already discussed. That's why I'm going little fast here. I'm creating an expression transformation to concatenate the first name and last name. What we have on the source. So concat names. So click on create. Done. So now you have the source table is ready and the target table is also imported. So just drag and drop all the things here to expression And now you have the so you have 3 ports: input port, output port, and the variable port. So I'm going to mark first name and last name as only input ports because I'm not going to populate them into the target table. Rather, I'm interested in populating the concatenated name of first name and last name into the target. So to add a new port, just add a new port here, and to move this up and down, you can use this arrow. And here this I'll add a name as out_name, which I'm going to mark the data type as string of 100, and you have the out_name. Here I'm going to add the expression. So what expression you're going to add? I mean, you're concatenating the first name and last name and then separating that by the comma. So just use a comma in between, and you're concatenating this and then the last name. So validate it, expression parsed successfully, and click on OK. So just apply. Now you have concatenated the first name and last name using the expression transformation, which is a passive transformation, and load the data into the target, that is your ODS_employee. So employee ID, so that you have the employee ID and the name what you have, which is a concatenated name, load it into this, and then the date hide that you have, and the type code what you have is this one, type code. So save it. So now the M_ODS_employee is already valid. So M_ODS_employee is valid. So now the mapping is being done. So that means first 3 steps that we have done, which we have already discussed in the last class. I hope till now. So if you have any confusions, go ahead. We'll discuss, and then from this step, this is the new thing that we are discussing. These are all the things which I already discussed in the last classes till the 3rd, and we are starting from the 4th step to complete the lab now. So till this part it will cover lab 1 and lab 2. I'm going to give you the lab documents to the share drive. From the 4share.com you can just download it. Do the mappings have to be done one table at a time, or can we do multiple tables at a time? I mean, if you want to do it, you can just do it if you understand the process, or if you just want to follow the process as is by the hands-on labs, you can just follow that. If you want to import it, you can do it whatever you want. So the next thing is about the workflow designer. I'm going to create the work session and the workflow by using the task developer. So go to the workflow manager. So how to log into the workflow manager? Once you log into the designer, you can just click on the workflow manager. It will automatically opens up the workflow manager, and from the workflow, by using the workflow manager, you can create the session. So to do that, now I'm logging into the workflow manager by using my account. I'm using what is the account that is being provided to me. So I'm logging in here. So if you are using the same user account, then only you are going to see all the details. Otherwise, you'll not be able to see the details what you have given. So use the same account. Now I have created my user account in this repository schema. So here all the things are being created. So in the workflow designer, we have 3 tabs. One is a task developer, next thing is a workload designer, and the other thing is a workflow designer. So using the task developer, you're going to create a session which invokes the mapping or which executes the mapping. So you're going to create a session using the task developer. Now this is a new step that we are seeing. I have logged into the repository, and similarly I have opened the repository, so it has opened the workspace for me. And this is a navigator window, and this is an output window. This is where you can create sessions and everything. Okay. So to create the session in the task developer, go to the task tab, click on create, and select the session. So you have the session which is available. So S_M_ODS_employee. So I'm creating a session. So always the session name will be S underscore the mapping name. So S underscore M underscore ODS underscore employee. So click on create. When you click on create, it will ask you to associate with the mapping. Whatever the mapping that I have created a M underscore ODS employee mapping, which I have created. I'm going to associate that mapping with this. So click on OK. So once you associate, a session will be created and click on done. This is the session. So one session can be associated only with one mapping. You cannot associate one session with the multiple mappings. And one mapping can be invoked from the multiple session. That is possible. So one session can invoke only one mapping. So what is the next step? We have created a session. So provide the connections for an integration service in the mapping tab. So this is the one-time activity. So you need to create a connection in the Informatica Workflow Manager for an integration service to communicate with your target database. So now I have to create a connection for my source and my target. So I'm creating a relational connections for an integration service to communicate with a database. So if your source database is Oracle, so then select the Oracle from here. Now I'm creating a source connection. So you can create Oracle connection. Suppose let's say your source database is a MySQL. Then you can select the MySQL or whatever. If your source database is a Sybase, then you can select the Sybase from here and then create it. So likewise, now my source database is Oracle and my target database is also Oracle. So this is a one-time activity that you have to do, not for all the hands-on lab, only for once. So to communicate with the source Oracle, and I'm creating a new connection. Which will communicate with my source database, that is my OLTP system. I'm creating the connection called as a OLTP underscore SDBU. And the username is SDBU and the password is SDBU and the connect string is ORCL. So using this details, your integration service will extract the data from your source. So click on OK. Now once you add it, so I want to give the permissions to everyone. So I'll give a permission to everyone. All the users I'm giving a read, write, execute permission. So I'm not giving the read permission and the execute permission. So what you can do is you can start using this. I mean, you can use this connection directly. You need not to create one more connection to communicate with the source. So source connection is already created, so you can just start using it. Now the question is, target schema is different for everyone. So you have to create your own connection. Now I'm loading the data into my schema, that is user file schema. So go to the new button. So here I'm creating a new connection to communicate with a target. So OLAP underscore user file. This is my schema. This is my target schema. So I'm connecting OLAP underscore user file and my username is user file and my password is also user password. Enter the password and then connect string is a ORCL. And click on OK. Now these connections will be used by your integration service. How does it use it? This is a one-time activity that you have to do it. So maybe before doing a first lab, you do it and then leave it. So we are going to use these connections throughout our hands-on labs. Now I have created a relational connections and these connections I'm going to use it. So how are you going to associate this with a integration service? So to associate this with a integration service. So
Karthik, Srini here.
yeah, go ahead.
Karthik, in real time, do we need to set these connections?
Yes, if your target schema,
do we need to set up these connections?
Yes, if your target schema, yes, you need to do that.
No, but these tables are already, because someone would have already used and they created the mappings, right? Already.
Yeah, if the connection.
Source and targets.
Yeah, if the connection. See, let's say you are developing a programs from the scratch. Yeah, if you're developing a programs from the scratch and the source connection is not there in your workflow manager and your target connection is not there in your workflow manager, you have to create it and then start using it. If already the connection is there, and you can start using it. So it depends, like if you're working in an enhancement project, the connections might be there and you start using them. If the connection is not available, then you have to create your own connection. That's it. So now I'm going to, yes, Renus, go ahead. Okay. So edit the schema, edit the session. So to provide the connections for the session, you double click on this. So you can add the description over here in the general tab. So in the general tab, you can write the description here. So about the session, what the session is doing. Session extracts the data from employee table in the SDBU schema and employee table in SDBU schema. These details you have to write it to improve the, to improve your coding practices. To improve your coding standards, you need to write all these descriptions so that if someone comes and looks at your programs, what you have done, they can easily understand what the session is doing and all those things. Okay, so extracts the data from SDBU schema and loads it loads it into the ODS underscore employee. ODS underscore employee, this is your scheme. Okay, so now you are using it. So we are talking about only the general tab now, and if you want to rename the session, you can use this tab and then use the rename session. And the next tab that I'm going to discuss is the mapping tab. We are not touching these tabs. Okay, mapping tab. So here you are going to provide the connections to the integration service. There is a tab called as a connection. In this connection, when you click on this, here you can provide the connection. It says that SQ underscore employee is a relational. That means you're reading the data from the table. So click on this option, and here, where does your employee table present? Your employee table present in the SDBU schema, OLTP underscore SDBU. So just click on this. And your target table is present in the OLAP underscore user find. So just select that connection. So now I have associated the connections to the integration service. So source is available in the OLTP underscore SDBU and the target is available in the ODS underscore employee. Now you have provided the connections. So the next thing is you can go to the source tab and double click on this. It will open up here and it will give you, this is a relational reader, which means you are reading the data from the relational table by using this connection. So if you want to understand which schema it is pointing to, this is pointing to SDBU schema. And then the ODS underscore employee. ODS underscore employee is there in the OLAP underscore user find. This is a relational writer. That means you're loading the data into a relational table, relational reader and relational writer. And the next important thing that you have to talk about here is the target load time. There are two types of loading process by Informatica. One is a normal load, another is a bulk mode. So bulk mode, if you are using, it will insert a group of records at a time by using a bulk insert process. By using a bulk insert, it will insert a group of records at a time. So if you are using a normal mode, it will insert one by one record. It will insert one by one record, it will be inserted. So always the bulk mode will be faster. Bulk mode will be faster to insert the data, but you have a limitations to use a bulk mode. So whenever your target table is having an index, which is defined on that, then you cannot use it. This is very important. So whenever your target table is having an index, so how to make sure that whether your target table is having an index? So you can suppose whenever you have a primary key which is defined on that, automatically there will be an index which will be defined on that. So you can't use a bulk mode to do that. So if you see our target table ODS underscore employee is having a primary key, which means there will be an index which will be created on it. So that's why I'm not going to use a bulk mode. Rather, I'm going to use a normal mode to do that. And remaining all the other options will come to know. And whenever we are loading the data, suppose for some database error or with a database error, your Informatica is rejecting the data. So that data will be written onto the bad file directory. It will be written onto the bad file directory. So how does Informatica understands that $PM bad file directory means this? So these are all the variables which will get initialized while installing Informatica. $PM bad file directory means this is a server directory. So which is a server directory here? So you can go and see the server directory, whatever you have. So if you go, that is the install directory, whatever you have. See Informatica 9.1.0. Under this, oh my God. Okay. So there will be a bad file folder. I think now this part is not visible to us because of the permission on the remote box, but I'll just show you how the bad file directory appears in my local machine. Okay, so I'll just have a word with them. There are some concerns for a hands-on lab. So you can go to Informatica 9.0.1. Under the server, there will be a folder called as a server. Okay, when you go to the server, under the info shade, there is something called as a source files. And all these files are the server related files. So this path you have to remember. This path you have to remember because all the server related files will be stored here, and all the bad files. Suppose while loading the data, if Informatica throws any errors, I mean Informatica rejects any records, it will be written onto this bad file directory. So this is a standard path if you're if you're installing Informatica on the server. So in the info shade directory, you'll have a bad files, source files, target files, and everything will be there here. Everything will be there, and these files will contain these are all the server related files which will be available related to your session log, workflow logs, and everything will be provided here. Okay, so we are going to use this. We are going to use these things. I mean, all the server related files will be stored here. So now, from the remote box, you're not able to see. I'll just have a word with them to give you the access to those folders, server folders, so that you can keep all the source files and everything. So this is where if you want to change your bad file name, instead of ODS_employee bad1, I just want to give this as user5.txt. So if it is writing any, if it is rejecting any records, it will write the details into ODS_employee user5.txt. It will write the data into this directory. So just apply it and then click on OK. Now save it. Once you do it, whatever the steps that we have done, you save it. So now the session is ready. You have provided the connection, you have enabled whether it is a bulk mode or the normal mode, and you have provided the bad file name. So if the Informatica rejects, it will write all those things. So now once you create the task developer, once you create the session, so the next thing is to create the workflow using a workflow designer. So I'm going to create a workflow now by using a workflow designer. Come to the workflow designer tab, and here I'm going to create the workflow. Go to this and click on workflows tab, click on create. So here I'm creating a new workflow, that is WF_ODS_employee. So whenever you are creating a workflow, so make sure that you are assigning the integration service, because with integration service is a service which moves the data from source to the target. If you're not assigning the integration service, your Informatica cannot kickstart your workflow. And if you'd like to enter the comments over here, you can enter it. So you have the integration service and then use this. And by default, whenever you create the workflow, that there will be a start task which gets added. That is the starting point of execution of your workflow. So whenever you create a session, that session gets created, and you can access all the sessions from this node. So this is called as a session node. So if you expand it, all the sessions will appear over here. And this workflow is like a package which will consist of different sessions and different tasks. So you can just drag and drop the session which you have to keep this part of a workflow. Just drag and drop, hold your left mouse click button, drag and drop that into your workspace. Now how Informatica understands that after starting the workflow, it has to execute this. So you have to connect that by using a link task. So what is a link task? This is a link task which you have on the top. So you can use this link task and then connect this to this. So what does that mean is that whenever you start the workflow, Informatica will kickstart the loading of the data by using this session. So one workflow can contain the multiple sessions, but here in this case we are using only the one session. This workflow contains only one session. Now you have created a session, you have provided the connection, and you have created a workflow also. So now this is the workflow. So that completes your step number 7. So we are done till this. So now we have just created a program, but we have not executed a program, or we have not run the program to verify the data. So to check that, if you go and see in the target table, obviously I'll not have any data because I've not loaded any data to the target table. Try and preview the data. So you can also preview the data from this. So go to the designer and right click on the target, preview the data. Here you can select the DSN what you have created. So I have created a DSN called as a user file. So I'm logging into that to check whether I have any data here or not. Yes, we can execute a multiple sessions. You'll come to know in the later classes how can we keep multiple sessions in the single workflow. Yes, we can do that one after the other. So now you don't have any data which is available in the target table. Now when I execute my workflow, it will extract the data from employee table and then load the data into target, that is your ODS underscore employee table. So to run it, so how to run the workflow? So to run the workflow, once you design everything, make sure that your workflow is valid. If your workflow is valid, then there will not be any bubble, red color bubble symbol over here, and there will not be any red color bubble symbol. So you're going to you'll find it. Or else, if you just want to make sure that whether your workflow and session are valid, go to the workflow tab and then validate it. So this is a workflow WF underscore ODS underscore employee is valid. Now the workflow is valid. Now you just have to make sure run this and then verify the results. So how to run this? Go to the workflow tab and then start the workflow. So when you start this workflow, it will automatically opens up the workflow monitor. And then show you how the workflow is running, how many records it has extracted. See here, automatically it will show the status here, starting the execution of the workflow, WF underscore ODS employee in a folder, which is saved by this. So I have saved, so that's why this has opened the workflow monitor. From the workflow monitor, you can verify whether it is succeeded or not. So you can just log into this. Now I'm running this using a administrator. So I'm entering the username and password. You can use the username and password what is being provided to you. And once you log in, you'll be able to see whether the workflow is successfully completed or not. Okay. So now this is the, so open the integration service, whatever is provided to you. So I have created the workflows in this, and now go to the task view. So the task view is a better way to get the session log and all those things. So instead of using that in the Gantt chart, so just here you'll find all the log information, whether it is all the log information will be provided, and go to the task view. And from here you'll be able to identify whether the workflow WF underscore ODS employee succeeded or not. So here there are a lot of things that we have to understand. So how to verify how many number of records has been extracted and how many number of records have been loaded and all those things. So to verify this, now the workflow says that it is succeeded. So to verify how many records have been that loaded, so right click on the session and then get run properties. Here if you see, it will tell you all the details here in the task details. What is the instance name, what is the task type, and the status, and you have how many number of source success rows. It has extracted total 26 rows and the failed rows are 0. That means none of the failed rows, and 26 rows it has loaded, and the target failed rows are 0 and the total transformation errors are 0. Overall the session is succeeded. And this is how you have to verify the details. And you can also go to the source target statistics. From here you'll come to know how many number of rows are affected, how much time it has taken to process the 26 records, how much memory it has occupied, and what is the error that it has encountered last. All those things will be listed over here. So you can see all the details, how many records it has extracted, how many affected, how many rejected rows out of this, and what is the throughput, and everything can be modified. It can be understood from the source target statistics. So whenever you're doing a workflow or whenever you're running a workflow, you need to verify all these statistics. And if you have any rejected records, go to the bad file directory and then verify the details and then use it. So the next thing is about, and you should also make a habit of reading through the session log. Whenever Informatica starts executing the workflow or a session, it will write the information into the log, how it is actually doing it and all those details. So that will be written onto the session log. So how to get the session log information? Right click on it and get session log. Right click on it, get session log, or you can use this tab, which by clicking on this, it will open up the session log. Here you'll see what is a repository name, what is a server, what is a session which is being executed. All those information will be written. And main important thing here that you have to see is what query that Informatica has used. No, it will write entire record. It is not just the reason why it has rejected. It will write entire record, what record is being rejected. We'll see that maybe in the later classes. I'll show you. Okay, so now this is how Informatica will start processing the data. Now we have to understand how the Informatica has generated the SQL query. We have not written any SQL query to extract the data, but Informatica, if you see this SQL query, this is a source query. This is a source query has generated by Informatica to extract the data from your source. So how did it extract? Your Informatica, based upon the configuration that you have done in the mapping, it will automatically generate the SQL to extract the data. So when we discussed about the architecture, your Informatica will generate its own SQLs to extract the data. So how did it understand that it has to extract only these columns? Employee ID, first name, last name, date hired, and the type code based upon the mapping definition. So if you see, you're extracting only these columns from the source. Automatically, based upon the number of columns that you're extracting from the source, your Informatica will fire its own query. Informatica will fire its own query to do that. So now this query is being fired to Informatica. From the logs, you'll be able to verify what is the source qualifier query that is being generated, and it will, by default, you are inserting the data, so it will fire an insert statement. What and all are the statement that is there, it will give you what insert statement it has fired, what update, what delete, and all those statements also will be written onto this. So and the thing is, if you want to increase the log level will be of 4 types. I mean type 1, type 2, type 3, like that, which you'll have a normal, tests, verbose data, and verbose. Normal, tests, verbose initialization, and verbose data. So this is the different log levels. Suppose, let's say you want to understand the more information, what Informatica is doing, and you want to understand each and every record information also in the log file. Then you can increase the log file. Then you can increase the log level, so that Informatica will write more details into the session log. So where you can modify that? That you can modify it from the configuration tab. There is a tab when you edit the session. There is a configuration tab. Inside the logging options, there will be inside the error handling options, there is something called as override tracing. Here you have the log level. You can set the log level. By default it will be none. If you want to increase the log level, you can increase to test, normal, verbose initialization, verbose data. So the increasing in the log level, it will write more details into the session, so that you can understand what kind of transformations it is doing and how it is extracting the data, and all those things will be written. So you need to change that override tracing. That is nothing but the logging level, which is available in the error handling options, which you can modify it. So by default it will be none, because if you are changing the log level in the production and the higher environment, what will happen is that it will take a long amount of time to process the data. So that's why we don't keep verbose data, verbose initialization, all these things. It will slow down your loading process. And during the development process, suppose, let's say you want to understand, because of some reason one record is being rejected, which record is getting rejected and for what reason it is being rejected. In order to understand, or in order to debug your program, then you can increase the log level and then identify. Then you can increase the log level and then you can identify, but for production and the higher environments, we don't enable the log level to the higher level. So that likewise you can use the Informatica to process, and similarly all these session logs, workflow logs will get generated onto the shared folder. So we have a shared folder which I shown you on my local machine. So if you see here, there are a lot of session logs. So all the session logs will be written onto this folder, info shared session logs folder. Similarly, the workflow logs and all will be written onto this info shared workflow logs folder. So all the session logs, workflow logs will be generated, but you can't read them. It will be in the binary format. You can't read them and then do that. So if you have to generate in the readable format, you have to follow the different property. You have to set it in the Informatica level, so all the server related files will be shared onto the info shared. So if your server is installed in the Linux, then you have to access the Linux files by using a WinSCP or PuTTY. By using those two things, we will use it. Here our server is installed in the Windows box, so we can directly log into the Windows box and then start accessing the server folders. So likewise, whenever you are performing a hands-on lab, you need to verify the workflow log, whether it is having any errors, or you need to verify the session log, whether it is having any errors. All those things you need to modify. So you need to go through each and everything to understand if there are any errors to do that. So likewise, you have to verify the session log. Now the thing is that we have loaded the data, but we didn't verify whether it has loaded the data properly in the target table or not. So once you verify the data at the workflow monitor level, so the next activity is that you have to do a unit testing. Unit testing is something that which will be performed by the developer, and you have to do the unit testing by using a SQL developer or any other tool. So what kind of unit testing you have to do it? What kind of unit testing? First, you need to verify the count of records between the source and target are matching or not. So this is by using SQL you have to do it. So count of records between the source and target, whether it is matching or not. And at the same time, you need to verify whether you have any duplicate records present in the target table. Duplicates present in the target table, that you have to verify it out. And duplicate present in the target table. And similarly, if you have to verify the minus query validation, we talked about the minus query during the SQL classes. So the minus query validation, source minus target. So you have to validate on the column comparison levels, source minus target should be performed. All these kind of a unit testing should be performed by using the SQL. So these things should be done as part of the unit testing. Once you complete these things only, then only your hands-on lab is completed, and you should make a habit of doing all these things in the real time. So you should not leave it as is, and let's verify the data in the target table. I'm requesting the team to install the SQL developer, so you can use SQL developer in the future to verify the data. For time being, I'm just retrieving the data from my designer tab. So preview data, so go here and I'm entering the user file. See here whether it has concatenated the first name and last name properly or not. Now in the mapping we have concatenated the first name and last name. So see, this is being loaded. So all the data is being loaded. So you can verify the data whether it is properly loaded or not, and all those things you can verify. So there is a comma which is separated by this, and you need to do all the unit testing as part of this. So I'll show you maybe the unit testing process maybe for other hands-on lab tomorrow when we do that. For other hands-on lab, how you have to do that, we will see that. So now I see that my first name and last name is properly loaded. So that means which is working fine. I don't have any issues with my mapping. So whenever you want to look for any errors in the session log, you can sort this by the severity. So if you sort this by the severity, what will happen? It will keep all the errors in the first and then followed by the other instructions. So you can easily understand. By default, it will sort the session log based upon the timestamp, and whenever you want to do that using the severity, you can just click on that severity tab. It will give you the error information first and then followed by the other instructions. That way you have to define the lab and then complete the hands-on lab. So far we have done only the first 3 hands-on labs. So Whatever the things that we have discussed so far, we have completed only the first 3 hands-on labs. If you see, I'm going to share these files with you within a short. So we have completed these 3 things. We have imported the source and target. We have created a simple mapping, and we have created a workflow and then monitored the workflow and then verified the workflow. So these 3 labs are completed. Now we have performed this. And yes, so before proceeding with the background, and we have to also understand what as Informatica is doing, how it is going to process the data, what is happening in behind the scene. You are just running it, it is extracting the data and then loading it. How it is processing, that is also important. You have to know that. So we'll just discuss about it. So meanwhile, if anybody has a question so far, you can go ahead with your questions. I'll try and answer each and every question. Even if it is a simple thing, you can go ahead and I'll try and answer your questions, and we'll understand how the Informatica is actually processing the data behind the scene, behind the workflow monitor or workflow manager, how it is doing it. Yeah, you can go ahead with your questions now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I go ahead.
Okay, so the Informatica server and client, they don't have to be on the same type of OS. The server can be on Linux and the clients on Windows can connect to it, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, client should be installed on Windows only. We don't have a client which is developed for Linux.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Even though Linux has a UI, but we don't have any tool. I mean, product which Informatica has developed for Linux. Okay.
Oh,
Any other? Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. So, yeah.
Patrick?
Yes, Srinivas, go ahead.
Yeah, how will we do the tuning actually? How will we do the tuning?
Yeah. This is little too early.
DB2 will do the tuning, right?
This is little too early. Yeah. Give me a moment and you can just unmute. I'll answer your question. Give me a moment and you can just unmute. I'll answer your question. Okay. So to understand about the tuning process, there is a separate tuning process which will be followed in the Informatica. Okay. So the tuning process we are going to discuss in the advanced level. This is too early to discuss about the tuning on the Informatica level. So if you're following the tuning process in the DB2, probably you'll tune the database, you'll tune the SQL and all those things. In Informatica, if you have to tune it, you're going to tune the mapping, you're going to tune the sessions, you're going to tune the workflow, and you're going to tune your source queries, and you're going to tune your target loading process. So that will be discussed as part of in the last sessions once we complete all the hands-on labs. And since that is advanced concepts, I don't want to confuse much everyone. So we'll discuss the performance tuning concept in the later. So the next thing is that we have to understand how Informatica is actually processing the data, how Informatica is processing. So let's try and understand how Informatica is processing your data. Let me just take a simple example and then tell you how Informatica is doing. Let's say this is your source and you have in between, you have the Informatica is here and you have the target table which is available in the target database. Your source can be anything, your target can be anything. Your Informatica can integrate the data from any type of source to any type of a target. So this is your Informatica. Assume that Informatica server you have, and Informatica server contains your repository service and the integration service. Both are available. Now you have defined the mapping here. You have defined the mapping and all the programs have been done. So whenever you execute a workflow, what happens is that based upon your instructions, based upon your Informatica mapping instructions, it will fire a select statement to the source database. If it is a relational table, it will fire a select statement to the database. Suppose if it is a flat file, suppose let's say you might even read the data from the flat file or other type of sources. What it will do? It will read the data by using the process OS utilities. It will copy the data, entire data, whatever the source that can be. What your Informatica does is If it is a relational table, it will fire a select statement. If it is a flat file, it will read the data, and it will read the data and then keep it into an internal process. There will be a process, a memory, a manager, or the process called as a buffer. Okay, there is a process called as a DTM process. DTM stands for a data transformation manager. This data transformation manager process will create the three types of threads. When I say three threads, that is nothing but the three processes. One is called as a reader process, reader thread. Another is called as a writer thread. Another is called as a transformation thread. So as the names indicates that, so reader thread is responsible for reading of the data, writer thread is responsible for loading of the data, and transformation thread is responsible for transforming the data. So now here the example is whenever you execute a workflow, your integration service initiates the DTM process. Your DTM will create the three threads: reader thread, writer thread, and the transformation thread. This reader thread will invoke the source. I mean, it will generate it will fire a select statement to this, and it will extract entire data from the source table and then keep it into the Informatica memory. It will keep the data into the Informatica memory, and then your Informatica is a row by row process. First, it will fetch the first record from the source, and then it will fetch the first record from the source and then start transforming the data. So it will fetch the first record, it will concatenate the first name and last name, and then load it into the target. And similarly, once data is being transformed, your writer thread will fire a insert statement or update statement or a delete statement to the target. It will fire an insert statement or an update statement or a delete statement based upon your configuration. It will load the data into the target. So in the background, so whenever your Informatica is processing the data, it doesn't store any of the source data, or it doesn't store any of the transformed data, or it doesn't store any of the loaded data in the Informatica memory. So it is like a temporarily it will create the DTM process. Once the data is being loaded into the target, it will delete it from the memory. So it is an intermediate process that is called as a buffer. Or a cache, we call it in the Informatica server memory. In the going forward, we'll also see how Informatica uses the memory inside your hard disk and how it will process the data. Those things we will understand. So if you see, we have to see all these reader thread, writer thread, and the transformation thread in the session log, right? So go here, open your session log. You will have the DTM process also, which will be initiated. So go line by line how you have to do it. So see here, it says that DTM initialized successfully for the session. That is nothing but the data transformation manager. Once you do this, this is your reader thread. Reader source ORCL, and the user is SDBU. So likewise, there is a writer thread which you are using user file bulk mode off. And similarly, you'll also have a transformation thread which is used to transform the data. So here you have a transformation thread. So finish the transformations for the source qualifier query, which it has transformed the data, and then return it. So the DTM process is a main hardcore process behind the Informatica. When it is migrating the data, it will create the three processes and then start reading the data and then loading the data into Informatica. Okay, so that is how it will extract the data and then do it. So all the detailed information will be present in the session log. From the session log, you can verify all these details. Okay, so that's how you have to do the hands-on labs. So it's been a more than 1 hour 15-minute session. So yes. Malik, I don't know what you're trying to type it here, but I can't see that properly.
Hi Karthik, I think my keyboard messed up. My question is that can you show us how the batch file we can do with the batch file?
You want to execute a workflow with a batch file, right?
Yes. If you have an example like that.
Yeah, we have an example in the advanced labs, how we are going to execute a workflow from the batch file or a shell script, you can call it. There is a third party thing. which, I mean, from the third-party tools you can execute it, and we'll see that there is a utility called as a PMCMD utility. In the later class, we have a separate hands-on lab for it, which we'll discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, that's it. I have it for today.
Okay, can you send me the labs? Because I haven't got.
Yes, yes. I mean, I haven't sent to anyone.
Hello?
Yes, yes, Brian.
Can you send me the labs? Oh. Okay, I saw that you sent it already.
Okay, I'm going to send all those things to all of you with the links. Okay, I'm going to upload it to the forshare.com. From there, you can download it. Okay.
Alright.
Okay, then thank you. That's it. I have it for today, and tomorrow.